edition of the BFF Show. I'm Brendan.
I'm Franco.
It's almost as if we were meeting for the first time, what you just did there. I led you into that. I said, I'm Brendan, and then you paused and went, I am Franco.
I just really wanted to start the show off on a really warm note, so we're both feeling connected and vibing for what we're going to do today.
I enjoyed that very much. I would like to further build on this and just have it be as if, like 5 shows from now, we were just startled that we're on the air together.
Surprise.
Surprise. I need a glass of water already because my throat is killing me.
You know, I totally forgive you. It's a good to pause, too, to give our audience some build, because it's an exciting show today.
And we're professionals, so I need a glass of water in the first 2 minutes. Less than that, 1 minute. New record. Anyway, before we get into our sports updates, as you know, we talk sports, pop culture, everything. Franco, we want to get an update on your training for your run that's coming up soon. I'm calling it your insanity run. It's the 26 point something miles or more, or
32 miles plus.
32 miles. Yeah. Apologies.
No, it's
32
fine.
mile run through the woods. How's your training going? Are you doing anything unique? What's going on?
So it's going pretty well. I've been doing CrossFit in addition to running. I've actually had 3 really good days of running. I hit 10 miles and then 2 5s, all under sub 10-minute pace, so I'm feeling pretty good about that. The next big step is finding equipment to keep me warm. It's finally going to dip a little colder here, so we'll see how it goes once I'm in the cold air as opposed to that lukewarm stuff. But super excited, still need donations. We've actually come pretty close to 1/5 of our goal already, so we're going to put it on where Brandon's hand's shining right now, and that'll be the link.
Do you find that you have to modify? Are you doing 2 days now, or are you just doing 1 a day? Like, are you going to ramp up in that regard with like how many times a week you're doing it or what you're doing?
So as of right now, I'm doing usually like a lift and a run. As we get closer, I'll try to go lift, run, just to get my mileage up, because 32 to 64 miles is a long way, depending on how far I go past the 32. So I really need to make sure I'm getting my mileage in. Right now, again, I'm averaging around a marathon a week, which isn't that impressive. I'll hit about 50 this week, and I'll feel good about that.
And then are you taking care of your body properly, stretching, all that other good stuff?
I am. I'm doing a lot of muscle activation before I run. The biggest thing you can do for your body when training for something is sleep. Anything less than 6.5 hours and your muscle recovery is halved. So if you are training for something, make sure you sleep over 6.5 hours. That's something I'm doing. And then hydrate, because you're going to burn out a lot of water doing stuff. So I've taken care of myself that way.
All right, Frank. So we're going to keep doing updates all the way up until the race date. When's the race date again for everybody to know?
January 13th. Lucky number 13.
Okay. January 13th, and then we'll do a full post show about how your experience was and how it went.
Yeah, definitely. And I'll probably have a GoPro so we can get some clips. We'll see.
Oh, sweet. Yeah. Very cool. All right, man. So, but moving on from that, obviously that's going to be a highlight when you accomplish that. But I really think the true highlight was our World Series picks, because we nailed it. we said here, if you listened to the show last week, we said right here that the Astros were going to win in 7, and we were correct in what was a weird game. After all the previous 6 games before that, I think the expectation, Franco, was that this was going to be crazy. This is a Game 7. It's going to be everything in the kitchen sink. You're going to see everybody come out. And you did see a lot of people come out. But it was an underwhelming beginning with Darvish giving up 5 runs by the time he was out of the game. And Darvish, by the way, I don't necessarily blame him completely. I think that there was an opportunity for Dave Roberts to pull you at when it was up 2-0, and that was the opportunity to do it, get him out of there, but they left him in there, scored 3 more runs, and then at that point, it kind of deflated the whole Game 7. Did you get a chance to watch a little bit of that, Franco, and does that jive with what you were thinking too?
It does, and it kind of reminds me of the Giants World Series, to leave all the way back, where Bochy ended up pulling the starter to put Bumgarner in the 4th. It's Game 7. I think you have to use all of your resources. Kershaw had a lot of short rests, but Bumgarner did it on 1 game, so it could have been done. I think he did you a disservice, honestly.
I think so too, and I think it's pretty clear as a Yu Darvish, a free agent, probably not coming back to Los Angeles, which is kind of a shame because I don't think they set him up well to be successful. I think that you're right. They should have put in Kershaw a lot sooner, and then it just was the offense as well that just was not helping anything. And the Astros won, and they were a great team. Offensively, they were scary. That was the thing. I think that while I was watching this series, as we progressed by game 5, 6, 7, I wasn't necessarily worried about the Dodger hitters in the sense of like they're going to score runs. It was more of are they going to get anything? Because they left 10 men on base in game 7, which is insane for an offense or an NL team that won over 100 games, that they leave 10 people on base in the World Series. And it seemed to be they were trying desperately to hit the long ball anywhere. Home runs would seem to be the only thing they could think of because they all of a sudden forgot to play small ball.
No, I agree. And part of that, it's a team that hasn't made the World Series before. They've kind of been around the outskirts. And I think getting to that Game 7 was, one, surprising. I think they didn't think it was going to go that far. And two, when you're new to that kind of pressure situation, sometimes it can get to you, and you can try to be the hero. And that's what we saw, I think, a lot in that series.
Franco, let's make a bold prediction because, quite frankly, we nailed it. We nailed it with our bold prediction on the World Series. Very, very early hot take. Who do you think is in the World Series 2018? I won't ask you for something crazy like the winner, but let's just pick 2 teams that we think are going to be in it.
No, instead of being halfway crazy, we'll just go quarter.
Let's just be quarter crazy.
Man, I'm going to go Cubs, NL. Man, AL is hard, but I'm going to go Brewers. Cubs, Brewers.
Okay.
Wait, Brewers are in the NL. I'm so backwards.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think they're still in the NL.
Yeah, they are. I did the Astros swipperoo with the Astros going to the AL.
Got it.
Cubs, definitely. Let me think about the AL while you... Actually, we'll go Cubs, Yankees. We'll go traditional World Series, classic 1913 style, Cubs, Yankees.
I'm going to say, while I want to say Yankees, I think I'm going to stick with the Astros repeating a World Series visit, and I'm going to stick with the Cubs. I think the Cubs have the opportunity to bounce back. I think that, the pitching, they need to figure that out a little bit in free agency, but I think they have enough experience that it makes sense for them to come back. I think the Dodgers make it to the NLCS, but I think once again the Cubs are going to beat them just because I think they're not quite ready, and I don't see them making a huge splash during free agency.
Here's my crazy prediction. Brewers sneak in at the wild card and beat the Dodgers to move forward. That's my
What about your
bold
What about your San Fran Giants?
I think we have another year before we're there. I think we have to develop some of the younger players in our system. It is an even year, so, superstition being what it is.
Well, all right, so we will put this episode in a time capsule, and then we'll crack it open. Let's do it together, Franco. We're putting this in. Yep. Putting this in the time capsule, and then we're gonna crack it open in the fall.
All right. Synchronized swimming.
Yeah.
Synchronized time capsuling.
We did it. You're welcome, everybody watching at home. Let's get into the NFL, the week that was, and it's week 10, Franco. I feel like it's week 25. Season just seems to be never ending, and it's always terrible. Watson's gone. There's trades that happen. There's a lot of stuff happen. The Giants are still terrible. The best moment for the Giants, 3rd and 33. That's what it was with the Rams, and they scored a touchdown. 3rd and 33. You should just leave if you're the head coach. The best soundbite, which was sad and hilarious, was Ben McAdoo being asked, well, what was your halftime talk with the team? And he went and shrugged his shoulders. Like, how is that? That's the NFL 2017 encapsulated in a moment for me. It just sort of, it's happening. There's a lot of weird stuff. Let's go through some of the trades because that was the most exciting thing I think that's happened all year besides Deshaun Watson before he got injured. So, Franco, Jay Ajay from Miami to the Eagles. How do you think that went? If you're Miami, a fan, perhaps you're a little surprised, especially when your head coach says that you're offense is an expletive, and then trades your best player to the Eagles. So, Franco, what were your thoughts on that trade?
Two-part answer. One, I like Kenyon Drake for the Dolphins. I think he had a lot of talent coming out of college. I think it's time for him to kind of assume his role in that offense. And I think that's why Ajayi was expendable, and he's been a problem in the locker room, so sometimes you have to subtract. As far as for the Eagles, what a great pickup. A good pairing with Blount and Smallwood. Another great thing no one ever talks about is that it took away a player that the Cowboys could have traded for should Elliott have got suspended. And he will get suspended at some point, Lord willing.
Yeah.
But way to play keep away and take a player that could have helped them a lot off the table.
And then we had Kelvin Benjamin from the Panthers wide receiver over to the Bills, which I know the Bills are better, Franco, but I didn't know that they were buyers. I thought they were going to just kind of stand pat.
I think it's a tale of two different philosophies. I think at the beginning of the season they're trying to sell and see what they can get and kind of move forward and rebuild. I think they were kind of surprised by how well the defense has played and how well Taylor, who they threw under the bus and kind of gave him nothing to work with, has managed to be successful. So they decided it's time to kind of help him out. Benjamin's a great target. I think people are going to overestimate what it does for Taylor himself as a player. I think it helps LaShawn McCoy the most because they're not going to be able to stack the box as much.
Yep.
That's going to be the biggest change. As far as the Panthers, I have no idea what's going on. They're in the hunt for their division. Cam's playing so-so, and then you give away their top wide receiving threat. And while I like Devin Funchess, people tend to forget that he's a tight end converted to a wide receiver. He can't match Benjamin for route running, so I'm not sure what's going on. I guess McCaffrey's going to be the guy for everything, but it's kind of a head-scratcher from an organization that once pushed out Steve Smith, so I guess makes sense.
And then we had Jimmy Garoppolo go to the 49ers, which, okay, I mean, I think some people may have expected that. I don't think he's going to have an immediate impact. I've read he might. I don't think he will. No. I think this is a good 2018-19 play for the 49ers because they get potentially, I think that's the key word in this, their starting quarterback. But again, you and I have seen many a backup Patriot quarterback go out, or a backup in general. Look at what happened in Green Bay. All of a sudden, and I'm blanking on the guy's name because he didn't last that long.
Matt Flynn put up 5 touchdowns in Week 17, and then the next year got pushed into starting duty and was terrible. Yeah.
Yes, and then he was in Seattle for a hot minute before Russell Wilson took over, and the best part was that they had already printed a bunch of Flynn Knows T-shirts, which was the key phrase back in about 4 or 5 years ago.
Yep.
So, what do you think that who does this benefit the most? I mean, I think it's the 49ers, but Franco, talk about the Patriots. What are their thought process before? I mean, now they're pretty much all in with an over 40-year-old quarterback and Tom Brady, who's still great. I don't know. You tell me.
He's still great. I think this was the buy-in we were all kind of expecting from Belichick. It's Belichick saying, "I buy Brady for 3 more years," and it's also the Patriots kind of saying, we talked to Garoppolo's agents and we couldn't make it work. So might as well get something for him other than nothing in the next year and, move forward from there. I do like the move for the 49ers because it gives me a couple issues. One, you can keep Garoppolo and see how he develops in Shanahan's system because don't forget Shanahan loved Garoppolo when he was with the Cleveland Browns and wanted to draft him. Or two, you sign him to a franchise tender and then trade him to a team that wants Garoppolo anyway, possibly for more picks, which is something that could actually happen and wouldn't be out of the question. It just depends on how it all washes off.
So now that we're done with real talk, real adult trades, let's talk about our fantasy life. And I squeaked out a barely there win because Travis Claus, friend of the show, put it up somewhere in your vicinity. He doesn't always have to be mine. He played a guy, Fournette, who was inactive. He played a couple other people that were just on a bye and gifted me the win. And now it's crunch time, Franco. So people out there are looking for who can I get that's going to push me into the playoffs. And so let's start with who are you buying this week?
So I'd really like to buy Michael Thomas. The Saints wide receiver only has 2 touchdowns this year, does lead the team in targets, but hasn't scored at the rate people thought he would. Their schedule is very conducive to him scoring touchdowns, and while it will start off hard the next few weeks, best time to buy him. I think he's going to blow up in the second half, so I'm all Thomas going forward.
And who are you selling this week?
That's a hard one, but I look for someone that has a bad schedule. So as much as I love Todd Gurley, and I do, the next 4 of the 5 matchups that he has, they're against the top 5 running defenses in the NFL. He might get lucky and sneak in for a few, but if you can get a high rate of return for him, like an RB1 and a wide receiver 2, especially on a roster like yours, I'd go for that. And RB1's like a good one would be our good man Jay, we just talked about out in Philadelphia. Not as good as Gurley, but if you can partner him with someone like Michael Thomas, good trade. Or you can target someone like Lamar Miller, who has the easiest schedule moving forward for running backs. And that team is going to be rough, and Savage is going to check down an awful lot. So Miller might not be a bad pickup, again, with a really good wide receiver thrown in.
We'll have to figure out, I guess, as we approach our fantasy finals, we'll give you updates, obviously, on where we are.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm the number 1 seed in the consolation bracket, so I'm looking real good.
I am the 5th seed right now with a very unimpressive 5-4 record, so we'll see.
I'm a 4-5 record over here, so
want nothing more than to see Travis Claus, friend of the show, knocked out of the playoffs, as Travis is currently holding on to 4 quarterbacks in our league, and I want to say 2 defenses, which makes no sense whatsoever. And he has no wide receiver depth. So, Brendan, I'm rooting for you to steal that slot and sneak up in, and anything I can do to help you. I'm kidding. That's collusion. That's collusion.
That's collusion. Don't bleed in your trade talk that we're having into the show. Let's keep the show pure. Let's jump to our other favorite sport, WWE. A lot of weird stuff happened, not just in WWE, but the world of professional wrestling. But I think the breaking news is that in London, whenever the WWE wrestles out there, you always get your spoilers because the show's on way earlier than it is in this time zone. So we didn't have to wait long to find out that at tonight's SmackDown taping, the AJ Styles versus Jinder Mahal championship match, AJ Styles won. He is your new WWE champion. This throws into question the main event that they'd been touting for the last 2 to 3 weeks of Brock Lesnar versus Jinder Mahal, champion versus champion at Survivor Series. Weird kind of thing to throw away on free TV. Franco, what were your thoughts, and what's the explanation for this?
So I think twofold. One, very weird throwaway on TV, especially with the build Mahal's been given. He beat Shinsuke, he beat AJ. He's beat a lot of big guys, and to throw it away on AJ again without any build seems like a waste. I think the real truth here, and this is just a theory, is that they got scared of Mahal versus Brock Lesnar being the main event. And I think that has a lot to do with the way Mahal wrestles. He doesn't sell well, and Lesnar is not necessarily the best at offense any longer. So what I think may happen is we'll end up seeing a 3-way match in that match with Mahal, Styles, and Lesnar. I'm not sure how they get there, but they're not going to throw away the build they've had for Mahal versus Lesnar. But I don't think they trust him to be in the main event. So I think we see a fatal 3-way.
There's also the rumor that John Cena is going to be the special guest referee. So I'm not sure if that does anything. But I think, to your point, they brought up Shinsuke Nakamura, who went up against Mahal, I think, 3 times for the championship belt, lost every single time, and lost with interference from the Singh brothers, and no payoff. It was just, I thought watching it, like they're going to lead to some sort of Hell in a Cell or some sort of cage match where you finally see Nakamura get the upper hand. Nope, it just was dropped. Nakamura's stalled out completely. Another botched NXT bump up that had all the momentum in the world that just really is now grounded to a halt. I don't think he's in any program. I think he's in the Survivor Series team.
Yeah.
But I think that's it. I mean, for a guy like that, like you said, both parties didn't come out of that feud well, Jinder or Nakamura.
Yeah, it's just a waste of talent. I mean, he's internationally renowned. He's had the best reactions over the last few years. Very much akin to Finn Balor. Just wasted the push. So it's too bad. Hopefully they end up leading to maybe an AJ Styles versus Shinsuke as the WrestleMania main event for the Blue brand, but we'll see.
And then the other interesting thing that happened this weekend is that over in New Japan Pro, they had a major announcement for a match. Chris Jericho versus Kenny Omega. And what was interesting was that for the last week or so, 2 weeks, you had Jericho and you had Omega going back and forth on Twitter. It was at first it was like, this is weird because they can't wrestle because obviously Jericho is a WWE guy or has always claimed that he would never wrestle for another company again. And then it was a weird sort of it started to feel like it was a fake fight in a way because with Jericho and Dave Meltzer made a great point in some of the podcasts I listened that he was on. Jericho has had many interviews on his own podcast and in general where he's really loved the independent scene guys like Nakamura, like Finn Balor, like Samoa Joe, guys that he respects, and Omega kind of fits that mold. So to hear him sort of start trashing it was a little odd, and maybe the should have been the first tell. So now you have in the Tokyo Dome, January 4th, Kenny Omega, Chris Jericho being billed as Alpha versus Omega, which I thought I marked out a little bit for. I enjoyed that little call. And Jericho making some good points in his promo. Hopefully you got a chance to see it, Franco, but essentially saying a lot of people have claimed to be the best, Shawn Michaels, Edge, CM Punk, but they're all gone, and I've still been here, and I'm still here now, and I'm the best, so it's time to settle it. Franco, what are your thoughts? Do you think this match is going to be good, or do we have too high of expectations for it now? What do you think?
I think it's going to be great. I think they're both great workers. I think Jericho, while he's lost a step physically, I think he can tell a story, and I think they'll capitalize on Omega's athleticism to make up for that. I do think this is interesting. I think it may lead to something to WWE in general, New Japan, because Jericho isn't over there for free. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out over the next year, what talent they get from that company in an exchange. But I think it's probably the best match of the year. I'm looking forward to it.
I'm looking forward to it too. I think it's interesting because it sets up two future matches at one that they announced their return to Long Beach in a bigger venue. So I'm anticipating that they'll probably throw Jericho and Omega in that one of those nights for the United States Championship that Omega currently holds. And two, Jericho's Rockin' Wrestling Cruise might also feature this as a match because the rumor is that he tried to speak with Triple H and get NXT involved, and he said absolutely not. And then Jericho went to Ring of Honor, and they seem more than willing. The Young Bucks are going to be there. It's probably likely that Cody Rhodes will be there. All the main name guys in Ring of Honor will be on this cruise ship. So you could see Omega cashing in probably in that match as well. So I think it's exciting. I didn't expect it. I thought it's pretty cool. I'm looking forward to it. I think if you're the WWE, maybe you're right, Franco. Maybe they do get something out of it. Otherwise, I think that it's a bit of a blow when you look at what they're trying to push versus what New Japan can now push and Ring of Honor combined. And it's, to me, as a wrestling fan, there's no comparison. Ring of Honor and New Japan is just blowing them out of the water in terms of talent. I
agree, and it's basically in terms of booking as well. If you want to see how to make stars, that's where you watch, because the way they build people, and even when people lose in those two companies, they don't lose credibility. That's something WWE has struggled with recently, so I totally agree.
And then I want to circle back quickly. I think we got a couple minutes, right, Franco? 2-3 minutes or so? All right. I know you haven't seen it yet, but Thor Ragnarok is awesome. I highly recommend you go. It's the best out of the Thor series, which I know is not saying a lot because the Thor series wasn't the best of the brands. I don't think it pushes it past Captain America Civil War for me, I think, but it's surpassed a little bit Guardians 2 for sure. Okay. Guardians 1 is still above Thor Ragnarok, but it's a fun movie, and I think that's the most exciting part. It kind of shreds the mythic sort of. I love Kenneth Branagh, but he made it almost too serious with Thor when Thor needs to be goofy because he's kind of it just works better. The only negative, and I'm not spoiling anything for you, Franco, there is a completely unnecessary Doctor Strange cameo at the beginning that does not need to be there. Other than that, it's a gem.
All right, I'll be on the lookout.
Are you going to go see it?
I'm going to see it this week, and so next week on next show, we'll compare notes.
Okay,
that's what we
and then
call
finally
a
wrap
tease
up
in this industry, by the way. That's a tease.
Yeah. Tease. And then finally, the Xbox S it comes out this week. Essentially, it's just a souped-up version of the Xbox One or PS4 that you all probably out there may have already. There doesn't seem to be much value to it besides just another flashy thing. And you made an excellent reference to a previous console, Franco, that kind of felt the same way. What was that one?
That was the Sega Genesis 32X. Yeah. So it was an add-on that improved the graphic quality times 2. but still played all the same games and had a very limited
Yeah.
release life for games only for that system, because it's hard to push like a basically exclusive game content when not everybody will own that, and a lot of companies aren't willing to risk an entire market share just to do that. So I think it's the same exact thing. I don't care that it's coming out. Not even interested remotely. Much more excited about the Super Nintendo coming out than that.
Yeah, which you got to get your hands on, and I've gotten my hands on it, and I love it. I keep playing it, and it's probably going to ruin my marriage. Anyway, Franco, what did you learn today?
Well, I learned that apparently Earthbound is going to destroy your marriage. And on the same note, that I just remembered that my race is on my wife's birthday. Probably shouldn't mention that. So 2 wins for us in the marital column. What'd you learn?
I learned that we are tragically locked, Franco, in an epic battle in fantasy to just get out alive. It's not what we thought it would be. We thought it would be much more entertaining, but now we just seem to be clawing and scratching our way. But hopefully we'll get there. We'll get there, buddy. Hand in hand. Completely bloodied and beat up, but we'll cross the finish line. That's it for the BFF show tonight. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Brendan.
I'm Franco. Peace.
Have a good night. Or day. It can come on anytime. Bye.